Mark Twain was famous for saying, "Everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it." Well, obviously, to control the weather, you'd have to have superpowers. However, now that we have global warming, some people are saying that we really should think about altering the weather itself.
Remember when Marjorie Taylor Greene argued that there were like space lasers that could start fires? Maybe she was right.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Anna, and you're watching Anna Speaks Out. Thanks for being here.
So here is Tim Pool talking about the Maui wildfires, the horrific Maui wildfires. Here he is. This is his well thought out theory.
They say China's most likely behind the mysterious lights. Chinese pollution monitoring satellite Daki 1 probably.
And this is from February?
Yes, this is from February of this year, so 6 months ago.
So naturally, the mysterious light is responsible for the clear
all
climate
this shit.
change related fires.
Maybe they were delayed lasers, like we talked about, and months later they start a wildfire.
They say China's most likely behind the mysterious lights. Chinese pollution monitoring satellite Daki 1 probably produced the light spotted over Hawaii.
Oh, so it's monitoring pollution.
Oh, you can call it whatever you want, but
Yeah, right.
my attitude is, look, we are not on good terms with China right now. I mean, we can pretend, oh no, trade's going on, everything's fine. No, come on. They want Taiwan. They're building up their military. There's a chance for escalation, a chance for conflict. They want the South China Sea, and then they've got ships with Russia
Look at all
coming
this
near the
aggressiveness
illusion.
from China.
It's coming near U.S. territory, going near Hawaii, and then they're pulling off something like this. So look, how hard is it to start a fire? It's ridiculously easy to start a fire. You can start 50 fires all at once with a sequence of satellites doing high burst, high energy lasers. Then getting fire to spread isn't really the issue because you make the fire instantly in a bunch of different places.
And they can monitor the weather in Hawaii. I mean, you could just Google that. Like what I was reading from the National Guardsman who's making a statement was that, there's low humidity and high wind. So that's perfect conditions for wildfires to spread, which means any arson fires would also spread as quickly. Like China is perfectly
so sorry,
able to...
like these fucking morons. The reason they have to talk about this is because they think climate change is a hoax. So it can't just be that conditions lead to this. It has to be there's actually people starting these things.
So here are the green laser beams that were seen over Hawaii about 6 months ago now from the Subaru telescope. And my question is, could they have been a preliminary run, like a practice run, before the alleged actual event occurred? Or could there have even been multiple runs of this, and this was just the only one that was caught on camera, or the only one that was released to the public? There's lots of possibilities to consider. This show has always been very frustrating for me to watch and listen to. About as frustrating as it seems to be for them to watch people who dare to think for themselves and think outside the box as opposed to just regurgitating the latest popular mainstream media talking points, because the majority report seems to be full of smugly ignorant people. And that's the last type of people that you should have on a news show. They seem to do very little of any type of research, because there are some things that have appeared on the mainstream media that should get them to stop and think about what they're saying if they were to care enough to even look for them. Here's something from popular theoretical physicist Michio Kaku from a few years ago. It was uploaded by somebody else 5 years ago. I'm not sure exactly when it was said, but here it is.
I mean, lasers? Really? To change the weather?
That's right. That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer.
Remember when Marjorie Taylor Greene argued that there were like space lasers that could start fires? Maybe she was right.
Like these fucking morons.
This is what these like right-wing conspiracy theorists do. They divert attention and anger from business from capitalists and directed towards conspiracy, towards Chinese people, towards Jews, towards reptilians, if you're listening to Alex Jones, aka Jews. So like, I mean, they find these in their eyes scary ethnic groups that we're in conflict with, and they blame them instead of greed and corporate interests and capitalism. This is hallmark.
Oh, these people have bought in so hard to the divide and conquer propaganda that pits us all against each other. They're out here demonizing capitalism, the very thing that makes people from all over the world want to come to the United States, where you can live the American dream, so to speak, where you can basically accomplish anything that you set your mind to with virtually no limitations if you work hard enough. And they are demonizing people by basically, without directly saying it, calling people racist just for suggesting that the Chinese government, not all Chinese people obviously, might want to do something to hurt the United States. You know, China, the country that has always wanted to rule the whole world and really hates America and the power that we have. And that word racist is an anti-white slur, by the way, because they say that nobody can be racist except for white people, which is just obviously insane and untrue. So it's really sad, because we could all just look at the obvious information and proof that's out there for things that the mainstream media doesn't tell us because they don't want us to know, and we could all bond over that and be friends. Here's Michio Kaku talking about the doomsday plan to block out the sun.
There is a doomsday plan proposed by a Nobel laureate, and that is that if the greenhouse effect spirals out of control, we should put rockets to shoot pollutants into the atmosphere to reflect sunlight back into outer space. That would be a doomsday mechanism to control the weather.
But this is experimental.
It's experimental. However, in the laboratory so far it works. When you have water vapor and you have dust particles or ice crystals, you can precipitate rain. It condenses around the seeds. These seeds can also be created by laser beams. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning.
Go ahead.
Well, this fascinates me in part because, too, I remember reading the stories that China had used this during the Olympics, that the USSR had used this after Chernobyl to create rain clouds. I mean, did those really work then? We have some of these capabilities now?
Inconclusive. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong. Governments have been playing with this thing.
Alleged to.
Alleged to, right.
Yeah.
Now, we realize that for decades now, these governments have been alleged to have experimented with weather control, but nothing conclusive. This time we're bringing in the laws of physics rather than simply waving our hands and uttering mumbo jumbo. We're actually using trillion-watt lasers now. And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam. For floods, for agriculture, farmers, for people planning wedding parties, football games, you name it, outdoor events, even hurricanes. All of them could be subject to weather modification.
Incredibly interesting, Professor Michio Kaku. Thank you.
But that being said, I also am not convinced that it was China who did this to Hawaii. And come to think of it, Marjorie Taylor Greene may have always been deflecting from the actual full truth. Did you know that the United States Department of Defense has a space-based laser program? The U.S. Government Accountability Office website tells us that laser weapon technology is the best understood and most mature of the 3 types of direct energy weapon technologies that they have. I also found a 2019 article from Defense One that says the Pentagon wants to test a space-based weapon in 2023. A 2018 article from Defense News said space-based laser weapons could ultimately take out missile threats in boost phase. So the idea that these types of weapons exist is far from conspiratorial, as I think many people think that it is. And here's one more interesting factoid to finish us off here. John Pelletier, who is the current chief of the Maui Police Department, was also the incident commander in Las Vegas when the shooting happened on the Strip in 2017. So that's a bit of an interesting coincidence, is it not? Especially because locals in Maui have been saying that the police did some pretty sketchy things, like leading people into the danger zone and blocking the exits for people to get out of the danger zone. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And I'll see you in the next one. As always, God bless and thanks for watching.